Do you often freeze and get anxious at the sight of a blank page in a sketchbook? Well, if you do, you may have a case of blank page anxiety. I've gone through it and I've overcome it. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 tips on how I overcame blank page anxiety. So if you have this problem, keep on watching. So I've had blank page anxiety for a very long time. I feel like it truly started in high school because that was probably the first time I actually bought a sketchbook. Before then, I used to just draw on printer paper, and that was good for me. Ever since I bought my first sketchbook, that's when the anxiety kicked in. I finally overcame it about 9 or 10 years ago, and it was when I completed this sketchbook. It's this sketchbook right here. Stillman and Byrne Zeta series. And holy moly, I was so proud of it. Tip number 1, don't be afraid of making mistakes. Now, as a chronic perfectionist, this was really hard for me. I had a very hard time with this because I wanted every page to look perfect, flawless. I just wanted every page to be picture perfect for Instagram. I wanted to share it with all my friends. I just wanted the sketchbook to be a perfect book to look at, like a coffee table book. So yeah, I struggled with that for many years. Whenever I would buy a new sketchbook and I would, doodle on the first page and it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, I would immediately scrap it. And that went on for many years. And the act of me ripping that first page actually hindered me from moving on to the next. So that whole sketchbook wouldn't even be touched ever again. But I was able to overcome this when I started the sketchbook that I call my mood book. So this mood book, I started it in May 2017 and I completed it in October 2021. So in this sketchbook, I explored scrapbooking. I bought cute magazines, took some of the clippings and pasted on the pages. And then along with it, I would write my favorite quotes. And around this time, I had started my spiritual journey. And so I documented some of my thoughts throughout my spiritual awakening and just the things that I went through. It was nothing too personal, but a lot of these pages show what I was going through at the time. I went through a lot of growth, evolution, transformation, sadness, happiness, joy, just a lot of different emotions. I'm so glad I started this sketchbook because this was when I truly didn't give a fuck. There are a lot of pages in here that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, and I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of pages that I just was really frustrated at the time. Like this, for example. I don't like the pages, but I kept it in here. And I think because I was, really learning to embrace my emotions and to truly express myself with no judgment, this just let me accept my emotions for what it was. Like I said, normally I would rip out the pages when I don't like it, but for this particular one, I saw the mistakes as moments of frustration, anger, sadness, and I acknowledged it. I acknowledged all the emotions that I was going through, and, I kept telling myself, it's okay. If you don't like it, just keep it. This is just a clear representation of what I was going through at the time. These pages with bad composition, unwanted pen marks, and ugly splashes of color were a part of my creative process. This was like a growth period for me. And so when I look back on these ugly pages, I smile because at the time I was non-judgmental and I was gentle with myself. So yeah, I'm very proud of this. And I would definitely suggest having a sketchbook where, you can call it your mood book or whatever you'd like. You express yourself through these pages, even if it's ugly. Anything that can clearly depict what you're feeling. And this will help you really accept these emotions and understand what you're going through and to be very non-judgmental about it. Tip number 2 is to not restrict yourself. Be open to new ideas and new concepts. Now, in the past, I felt like I was restricting myself quite a lot. I have the tendency to make every sketchbook into a certain theme. Like, for example, if I'm gonna go travel, I'm gonna designate one sketchbook for traveling. And so I did that, and I was like, why did I buy a sketchbook just for traveling to Seattle or something? Most of the time, I wouldn't have been able to fill it out because I'm out and about with like family and just didn't have time to fill out those pages. And so I wasted so much paper. Now, setting themes for a sketchbook may not be a problem for everyone, but for me, I felt like it truly hindered my creative process because I only made this sketchbook just for, traveling to this certain state. And then after that, it's like, okay, well, I was only there for like 4 days and I only filled out 3 pages out of 95? And so there is a sketchbook just sitting there with so many blank pages. And for me, I just had a hard time with transitioning a sketchbook into something else. Editing Char here. So I forgot to mention how I was able to let go of that restriction I put on myself. So you've probably seen this last year. I filled up this Hobonichi with a plethora of things. So if you look back on all of my Hobonichi flip through videos, I put quotes, photos. I wrote down what I did that day, drawings. I also did prompts like, today I'm grateful for. So you can literally put anything on your pages. And so if you just have a sketchbook just for portraits, maybe you get tired of it and you don't want to draw a portrait for a whole month. Then it'll take you a lot longer to finish the sketchbook and fill out the pages. So that's why I really love that I experimented with this Hobonichi. Allow your creativity to flow and try new things. Tip number 3, draw from life. So I started drawing from life back in 2009 when I had taken life drawing courses in college. And then in 2011, I discovered Urban Sketch. Around that time, I was still doing fashion blogging, so I didn't post any of my art online. I just kept a sketchbook and practiced. And then in 2014, when I started my YouTube channel, that's when I openly shared my love for Urban Sketch. Now, speaking of Urban Sketch, this first sketchbook that I completed was actually the one that I used to film my Urban Sketch videos. So Urban Sketch and drawing on location is definitely a great way to get through a sketchbook because you can, document your life every day. You can sketch your cup of coffee in the morning or a family member. Maybe you bought something from the store and you can draw it in your sketchbook. So anything. That's why I love drawing from life. There's always something to draw. Whatever you're surrounded by, it's drawable. And so, I can draw my headphones, anything. I can draw all my plants. I can draw this space. No matter how mundane or simple an object or experience was, I still documented it in my sketchbooks. It truly helped me appreciate the little things in my life, the things that I often took for granted. I was able to gain a strong sense of awareness of my surroundings, of my experiences, and it also helped me practice mindfulness. And so now I don't have a problem with starting a sketchbook because the first page, I can just draw whatever's in front of me with no second thought. I literally don't even think about it anymore. Whatever I'm surrounded by, it's worth documenting in my sketchbook. Tip number 4, use what you got. Now, if I don't feel like drawing on the first page, what I usually do is I'll take a bunch of my stickers and I'll just paste it on there. So other things you can put on the first page if you don't feel like drawing are photos of yourself, your friends and family, post-it notes. It can be reminders or maybe a favorite quote. You can also put stickers surrounding it. You can paste magazine clippings, do a little bit of scrapbooking. You can paste old drawings and sketches. You can also paste things like dried flowers or leaves or ticket stubs, receipts, anything like that. Having something on the page will naturally encourage you to move on to the next page. The last tip is kind of deep, but it's doing the inner work. Over the past decade or two, I have been heavily into self-development books and books on creativity. As I went through my spiritual journey, I have discovered a lot of great practices that have helped me, heal these core wounds with self-worth, perfectionism, and comparing myself to others, as well as healing my inner child. So things like journaling, practicing mindfulness, doing consistent meditation, and other spiritual practices. With all this combined, I was able to understand myself and what I had to heal. When I unlocked these parts of myself, I was able to understand where my perfectionism stemmed from and why I was comparing myself to other artists. And so when I did spiritual practices that helped me heal my inner child and my self-worth issues, I was able to expand my creativity and to fully express myself and to be open to making mistakes, being vulnerable, and it also helped me embrace my creative process. So those are my 5 tips on overcoming blank page anxiety. I hope that this video was helpful and that it helps you fill up those first pages with ease. If you appreciate art journaling, subscribe down below. Have a great day, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!